It didn't go well? Shocking. Why? Like, why didn't it go well? Ooh, marketing and sales weren't aligned. You've heard of that. Why else didn't it go well? What was that? One more time for the audience. The strategy moved too slowly for an ABM program. Okay, so it didn't go well. That said, did anything work well? Did anything go? Nothing went well. Luckily, we've got hopefully a couple things to help you with that. We've already talked about what didn't go well, so we're already ahead of schedule. That said, I want to ask this question of who is familiar with the idea of a crawl, walk, run approach? All right, I got a couple people that are familiar with the crawl, walk, run approach. When we think about this idea, the simple idea here is that you're supposed to start slow. You're supposed to prove something works, and then you're supposed to build it up from there. Here's the challenge. Crawling sucks. Nobody wants to crawl. That said, you know what else thinks crawling sucks? My daughter. My daughter really hates crawling. She's really good at it now, because she's been practicing for a while. She really wants to walk. She just doesn't know how to walk yet. And she's actually right on track, unfortunately, for her. Because it's a really fun fact. Does anybody know how long it takes a baby to learn to crawl? So I've got one. How long does it take a baby to learn to crawl?
9 months.
All right, so we've got 9 months. You're actually spot on. It takes a baby anywhere from age 7 months to 10 months to learn to crawl. So how long does it take them generally to learn to walk? Yeah, so it's generally around that 1 year mark. But some babies are actually all the way up to potentially 18 months. So anywhere from age 10 months to 18 months, how long it takes them to learn to walk. What about run? When do they typically learn to run? They generally learn to run about 6 months after they learn to walk. So it's anywhere from age 18 months to 24 months. So again, for context, we think about from not being able to do anything to running, it's about 1.5 years to 2 years. But let's say, hypothetically, I wanted to help my daughter learn to run before she's learned to crawl. What would I do? Obviously, I'd go buy the best equipment. I just go buy all the right tools because it's the tooling and it's the equipment that make us successful runners, right? And with all the right tooling and all the right equipment and all the right capabilities from our equipment, we should be able to get Usain Bolt results. Of course not. No, we end up setting money on fire. We're the joke, and sometimes we lose our jobs. That super sucks. Because we just didn't have realistic expectations, we didn't want to learn to crawl. And again, I just have a lot of friends lose their jobs. Let's talk through how to crawl. That's today. In case you're wondering, that isn't actually news of my daughter. She's not a stock image. She is objectively the cutest thing in the world. You can fight me on that. I'm basically first and foremost a father and husband. Secondly, I happen to also run a company called Scrappy ABM. In the past 3 years, as a solo marketer, I have sourced $8 million through ABM programs that have generated a 16x ROI for bootstrap and boutique businesses. And I'm very intentionally used the word source, not influence. These programs would not have made this revenue would not have been generated had it not been for these programs. And as a result of the past 16 months, I've now built a team of 9 Scrappy ABMers. We are the only crawl stage ABM service provider that delivers step-by-step programs that actually enable your teams to be successful. So our goal is to equip all of our clients with enablement, playbooks, documentation, and training, so that inevitably after you work with us, you should be able to build ABM programs on your own. So that's what we do. And today I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do that. Quick question, what is ABM? What is ABM? If you Google it, there's like 100 different definitions for such a simple acronym. What is it? And for starters, it's account-based marketing. Past account-based marketing, what is ABM? How many of you find that? This is audience interaction, so I'm waiting for an answer. Ray, you seem up for it.
I will be up for it. It is another name for outbound.
Okay. We'll fight later. Another name for outbound. What else is ABM? We have people that said it failed at their organization, but now we don't know how to define it. That might be the reason it's failing. So Tracy, I'm going to pick on you. Why does ABM, or what is ABM?
Targeted accounts.
Targeted accounts. We're going after specific accounts. Yeah.
Use cases and then the marketing.
Yeah, so use case-based marketing. I actually like that. Strategic intentional business development. So, what I love about what we've actually done here is it's very intentional with some of the definitions that we've got. You've got to understand this is not actually a marketing program. The way that I define ABM is it's a B2B revenue strategy that aligns marketing, sales, and CS, aka the revenue team, around a set of shared target accounts. That is the simple definition. And fundamentally what that means is instead of what marketing is standardly doing, which is let's cast as wide of a net as humanly possible to engage as many people, we'll then pass those leads, aka contacts, over to sales, will then outbound anybody that's got a pulse to try to close them. And then from there, we will sell them, make promises that we can't deliver on, and then our CS teams have to hold on for dear life until they inevitably churn. Instead, we take an intentional strategic approach, which is who are our best fit potential clients that have the highest profit? What are the trends within those accounts? How do we then define that and say, how do we find more accounts that look just like this? So that from the onset, we've actually found our best fit potential customers that have the highest lifetime value, and as a result, we then have exponentially lower customer acquisition costs. At the end of the day, ABM is good B2B marketing. We just don't do it. That begs the question, then who is ABM for? I want to go ahead and just define this. And two reasons for this. If this doesn't describe you, we can be friends, and I appreciate that you've been here, but I don't recommend you stay. There's other great sessions. But if you're not a B2B company, that's fine, we can be friends. I don't have anything for you today. If you don't have a dedicated sales team, we can be friends. I don't have anything for you today. If you don't have product market fit, we can be friends. Eventually when you get product market fit, I'm happy to help you, but I don't have anything for you today. If you don't have an average contract value of about 50K, I might be able to help you. Come back to that one. A 90-day sales cycle, an ideal significant expansion motion. So we want to land and expand our best fit customers, and then clear market focuses. So I've talked with some people that came in to do an ABM program. They're like, we'd like to build an ABM program around these 14 verticals as our pilot program. It's like, you can't. That's not economist. That's everyone. And the asterisk that I put on the E50K ACV is I have worked with a fair number of very vertical specific organizations that truly only serve a specific market. One example was super nerdy. It's a software compliance client that provides security compliance for government-run manufacturing facilities and utilities. They had a total addressable market of 500 accounts. That was it. And it didn't matter what their ACV was, because at that point, if you only got 500 people to sell to, you should be running ABM. And that's the attributes. If this describes you, we're gonna have a great time today. And I want to come back to why it fails. Because when we think about ABM and its definitions, we often address, yes, it's partnership with sales, yes, it's strategic, yes, it's focused on ensuring we actually have intentionality in our programming. But again, I've now had, in our sales process, 20% of our clients, and I've now had 300 conversations in the past 14 months, 20% of them come in and say, we want an ABM platform, not knowing how to use it, thinking you figure it out afterwards. And it still fails. And it's not the technology's fault. Why does ABM fail? There are three very clear data backed reasons. The first is lack of sales and marketing alignment. This takes a variety of forms, but specifically one that is within marketing's control is a lack of pipeline. So we make an intentional shift to ABM, we lose pipeline, sales loses their minds, and I want to be super clear, rightfully they provide for their families based on hitting their quotas. If you don't have the pipeline, sales is obviously going to rebel, and they should. So, lack of alignment on that front. The other thing that's actually been very interesting that's come up a lot more recently is the intentional shifts in the sales motion to go from lower ACV volume sales to higher intentionality, larger deal sizes. You actually have sellers that make less money on the higher deal sizes, just because there's been a shift in how the go-to-market is done and the sales competition hasn't addressed it. So that's something you have to address with your executive leadership to ensure that if you're going to want best fit potential customers to come in the door, your sellers should be compensated for that. That's the first piece. Second piece is a lack of resourcing. So the worst thing that can happen today is you listen to this and you're like, this sounds amazing, and you're an executive, and then you go back to your offices and you say, all right, marketing manager, we're going to do ABM. And you just throw it at a person and say, do it. Because they have no support. ABM, again, is not a marketing program. It's the greatest misnomer of all time. It's an intentional revenue program. So if you just give it to a marketing manager to say, do ABM, they're destined to fail because they couldn't get sales on board, they couldn't get the resourcing and the effective support to actually then go and build the program. And that's why people get fired. Lastly, is that it's super hard to measure. So let's take HubSpot for an example. I love HubSpot. HubSpot, by its nature, though, is very contact focused. So you have native lead scoring capabilities. It automatically generates contacts. What's interesting is that depending on how you set up your program, in HubSpot, it may not automatically generate companies. So you don't have the association with company reference. And then all of a sudden, you've got all these contacts, great information on these contacts, but no measurement on the account level. And that's just HubSpot. Let's not often factor in third-party intent data, it's third-party partner data, and then website re-engagement data. There's now a plethora of opportunities to measure, but not a simplified approach to measurement. Maybe it's just super hard to measure. Which is why we then pose a new approach that is referred to as an activation play. The idea of the activation play is very simple. It is repeatable processes for when sales or CS become involved in very specific customer conversations. What that means functionally is trigger-based programming. So, let's say hypothetically, target account hits our pricing page, our product page, and our schedule call page. We should pass that to sales. Or let's say hypothetically, someone misses a meeting. We have a missed meeting playbook. Let's say hypothetically that we have a closed loss program because we've made now massive product updates, and we can re-engage an audience based on a past rejection. That's an activation call. Or let's talk about CS, low product utilization. How do we then retain our customers? By looking at their 30% utilization for our tool, which probably help them increase their utilization. Or the exact opposite. They have massive utilization, there may be an opportunity to expand. These are all simple, trigger-based processes that exist within your existing data today. Which is why I love the approach of the activation playbook. Because you can go look at your data today, literally look at all your contact records, all your company records, all your deal records, and see what could function as a trigger for a workflow. That's it. And when you do that, you then have a data trigger. And you can then structure all your programs around this 4D framework. So the 4D framework is very simple. You have data. Data is a mix of three components. It's targets and triggers. And this is very different from most ABM programs because most people only think about targets. They say, we want to go after 85,000 companies. And that is their firmographic filtering criteria. It gives no context because there's no trigger. There's no reason to reach out other than they look like a cool company. That's a horrible execution for an ABM program. So when you marry targets that are right fit accounts with triggers being reasons to reach out, you can then actually create highly personalized and nuanced messaging. That's data. That's admittedly the most complex part. From there you've got distribution, which is just how do I get in front of these people? Could be outbound, not exclusively, but it could be. It could be outbound, it could be ads, it could be webinars, it could be email, it could be any number of things. But at the end of the day, there's a set list of tactics that we can use to reach our audiences. Based on the trigger, where do we reach them? Next is then destination. So based on your trigger, you should then have context on why you're reaching out. The goal of the destination is to help them understand the next step that they should be taking in their journey. So for example, if you have a website re-engagement program around product page, pricing page, schedule, call page, your next step content would be use case to case study content. Because they understand the pricing, they understand the product, but they didn't book a call yet. So now how do we help them have more specific understandings around the value of our products? And then lastly is direction. Direction is just how do we track it? So how do we actually know that they accomplished the goal? Is it specific page views? Is it a CTA? Is it a booked meeting? And if you can understand these 4 Ds, you actually then have repeatable processes and playbooks that you can run. If you want a more simplified version, I made it really easy. Targets plus triggers creates personalized messaging. Next question is just how do we get in front of these people? Next is then what are we sending them to for more information? And the last is how do we track it? If you answer these questions, repeatable processes and playbooks. So why don't we start here? I've now taken about 5 or 10 minutes to explain activation playbooks, and everyone's generally nodding their head. It's simple. By design. You can now go explain this to your sales team. And sales will be like, oh yeah, if you sent me people that actually did our product page, our price page, and our schedule and call page, but didn't book a call, I'd love to see those people. I have talked now with 50 sales teams in the past year. No one has said no. So that's the first component, is simplicity. And because it's so simple, and I'm going to reverse order, so forgive me, but because it's so simple, the alignment comes naturally. Because normally when you go to build an ABM program, you're trying to get people on board, you're saying, here is our account-based scoring model. And you're going to go after these accounts, and based on these accounts, you should be able to generate all of this revenue. And it doesn't work for the first 3 months. So the sales is like, well, this, I'm not losing my job for you. And they rebel again. And then lastly, you know how to measure success. It's direction. So you've set up on the front end, what is the goal of this playbook? And to be clear, it probably won't be to book a meeting for every playbook. It shouldn't be. It might be, we help them take the next step in their journey, which is, they didn't know that we existed, now they know we exist. They know we exist. They know the problems that they're experiencing. They know the problems that they're experiencing? Awesome. They know viable solutions. And once they understand viable solutions, then you book the call. But it's not intent to book the demo. And I'll be super clear. We have now built, 60 programs in the past 16 months for clients. 70% of them have programming that is third-party intent to book demo. If you think that I'm crazy when I say no, actually measure success, it's not always a book demo. It's just helping you take the next step in that journey. So, how does it work? And Gray, you're going to come back to me. But for step 1, it is you identify a trigger. The step 2 is you build and operationalize an outbound sequence. And the reason here is if the number one reason that ABM fails is a lack of sales and marketing alignment, I want to brute force failure. I want to address it head on. And I want to build a partnership with sales. I want to figure out why this wouldn't work early. Because then you can much more easily actually overcome those challenges. So by starting with sales as your primary distribution, you force the partnership. But once this works well, these are data-driven, trigger-based programs that you can run in perpetuity. So we had a client that was B2B and B2C. They ended up on a weekly basis having 300 B2B email addresses submitted on the B2C side of their business. Their B2B sales team had no visibility into that. We then created an automated workflow that segmented that list by geo based on business email addresses. Their sales team then got 100 email addresses on a weekly basis that had actually purchased from their company on the B2C side and just re-engaged around B2B offerings. They booked 9 to 15 meetings a week from that one playbook because it was existing first-party data around very specific, tangible, tactical triggers that then created repeatability and got buy-in from sales to go build more. You do not need this massive ABM program. You need a playbook, one, that works, that makes sales happy. And once you've got that buy-in, you can go build more. If you want some examples, these are very standard across most tech stacks. So if you don't have website re-engagement data right now, go install RB2B, it'll give you a Slack channel, you can then re-engage with RB2B today. It'll de-anonymize 20 to 30% of your website traffic at the contact level. Next is an industry news. So if you have industry news that changes the game, I'll give you a quick example. The FTC at one point had an overruling on non-compete agreements. If you're a staffing firm like Upsearch that had clients that you couldn't previously post with another organization due to non-competes, if that gets overturned, there's no intent. But that's a change in how the game is played. And as a result, You can then educate your buyers on exactly how that changes their life. That's industry news. Every industry has things that happen that change their game if you have a clear market focus. So again, how do you then educate your buyers on what that change means for them? I'm not going to dig into all of these, but I will call out a couple more of my favorites. Champion tracking is one of my favorite playbooks of all time. I worked at a company where we sold to CROs. The average CRO changed jobs every 18 to 21 months. And we just followed them from one company to the next, and we generated 30% of our revenue on an annual basis just by following people that have bought us previously. Campaign tracking is amazing. Another one is event activation. So very simple playbooks on how do I actually look at who's going to be at the event, intentionally schedule 60 different meetings before I go, have 40% for serendipitous opportunities, and what's your follow-up process? And like creating standardization around follow-ups so you actually know how to filter and segment and then actually book meetings. I went to BMX and I booked 37 meetings in a day just through simple event activation processes. As far as where to start, I love lost deals because again, this is where you have the greatest data and no loyalty. What I mean by that is most people, truly the best place to start would be customers. Most people want to start there because they don't want to put revenue risk for an experiment. Close lost, you have past objections, you have people that were in the buying committee, why they wanted to previously buy. So then the goal is how do I overcome my past objections to revalidate our opportunity to work. And then lastly, just be customers. And again, if you've got free reign to start on customers and do a win-back program, or to do an expansion program or a referral program, those are huge opportunities. And I'll give you some quick tactics on how to use an ABM thought process for referrals. Don't just ask people vaguely, do you know anyone that would need this help? Ask specifically. You can look at somebody's LinkedIn network and then filter by who they're connected with that work at specific companies. And then you ask for introductions to specific people that work at specific companies. And you say, hey, it looks like you are connected with so-and-so. And you provide a list of 5 people. They're probably going to know one. And then you make a direct introduction. That's simple, repeatable playbooks that you can run that will generate revenue for your business. By the way, if you want more stuff like this, I have a podcast. We've done 101 episodes as of today. Everything I do is highly repeatable, simple-based processes using your existing first-party data or free/inexpensive tools. And I just give all this stuff away for free. So if you want more stuff like this, we are in the top 10% of global industry shows. So we've got a couple people that do like to tune in. I've not had one person tell me that they didn't enjoy it. I also want to give direct context. Some of you are thinking, okay, this is all great. If you really dig into it, actually a lot of what we're talking about on the front end is pretty contact focused. So where does it turn into ABM? I'm going to give you the simplest explanation of ABM. ABM is 3 stages. Over here, marketing does stuff. At some point, sales gets involved. And then it ends because then marketing and sales work together to close the deal. Activation playbooks are the simple processes for how sales gets involved, which is where ABM generally fails. So by starting here, you've now built a proven process that is a account handoff for sales. What you then do is you go do stuff that then triggers these processes, and then you optimize with better enablement content that directly speaks to your buyers. But you proved it worked here. So that's it. And if you want a quick example of functionally what that turns into, this is where people get cross-eyed. Don't worry, I'll guide you through it. There are 2 frameworks. So we've now spent most of our time talking about the activation plays, because that is where everyone needs to start. You then inevitably grow into an account progression model, where you have clearly defined what is awareness. That is one of my favorite questions to ask. Everybody gets smarter. Like, we don't have a clear definition for awareness. We don't measure awareness. But nobody can buy from you if they don't know that you exist. So how do we define awareness and how do we measure it? And then we get into initial engagement. Initial engagement is more around, do they know they have a problem? If I can see it painfully clearly, but they don't, it doesn't matter. They don't know they have a problem. Once they understand they have a problem, do they know viable solutions? We could do this internally, we could work with a consultant, we could go with a full-scale agency, we could buy technology. All of these are just viable solutions. but do they have a big enough problem that they know they need a viable solution? From there, it's then the MQA, marketing qualified account. Specifically what this means, from a standardized definition, do they view you as one of the viable best fit solutions? It's not just they're looking for a solution, but they think you could be it. How do you measure that? Product-based pricing pages, got a little call page. Checking out those pages, and they've already followed the rest of this. That means they're looking for a solution, and they could see you as a viable solution. Which then is where, we activate sales for re-engagement to then get them to actually book a meeting. And then we qualify that from a sales perspective, not based on fit. That's here. That's a pre-qualification for them entering into the program. But at the SQA, SQL stage, you then know they're a right fit and they're ready to buy. Which then means we have an opportunity and we just work that opportunity. So this is where people get cross-eyed, and I want to be super clear. That's step 2. That's walking. We're not ready to walk yet. We start to crawl. You need to start with a simple activation play that just uses your existing data. If you want a quick example, here's a closed loss program. It's very simple. Who are our targets? Closed loss plus vertical. So vertical specific closed loss re-engagement. What's our trigger? Previous objection plus time. What's our messaging? Recent changes on their side and on our side. So what this functionally means, it's going to sound crazy. I don't win every deal. And I tend to lose because what we do, people feel like they can do it on their own. They just do. Like I just walk through everything, you're like, all right, I feel like I'm going to run with it. There's 1,000 nuances that people don't wrap their heads around, so I generally lose not to another agency, but to, we're going to try this on our own internal. I'm like, that sounds great. I follow up 3 months later, and I say, hey, last I talked, you wanted to do this. I'd love to hear how it's going. If it's massively successful, I'd actually like to have you on my podcast to share the story. If you're not where you wanted to be, though, I'd love to catch up and see how I can potentially help. Those are engagement that close at 70%. Past objection plus vertical, closed loss plus vertical, plus past objection and time. And again, it may be 6 months, it may be a year for you. I don't know what your time frame is. But for me, people should be able to experience positive progress in 3 months. I can re-engage every quarter, and then recent changes. And recent changes are on their side. Did you make the progress you anticipated to make? We then get into distribution. How do we get into distribution? I largely go through email. I think email is probably the best distribution channel for close loss. Specifically, if you can re-engage the person that's already had the conversation. Because there's relationship. So they're going to see your name pop up in the inbox, and admittedly, depending on how you sell, it may not be positive all the time, but they are going to recognize your name. Hopefully, you're a good seller in the sense that you focus on relationship development, and you can re-engage with a positive experience. The other one that's not as often talked about would be specifically the HubSpot ad extension. If you end up having a large enough vertical that you can go after for re-engagement, you can actually do list-based advertising through HubSpot ad extension. If you have a lifetime spend of $50K in Google, and you just get a list of 1,000 matched contacts. So you can actually do native account-based advertising through Google if you have the HubSpot ad extension. You can also do it for LinkedIn. And the reason I don't call that out for LinkedIn is with HubSpot's ad extension, you can do it on 300 matched contacts, but also with LinkedIn, it has native account-based advertising capabilities just if you do a company list. So I generally with LinkedIn do company list plus specific job titles as the best way of actually engaging this audience. And then just pick up the phone. Just call somebody. Crazy. Like, but you have a relationship with this person. They talked to you previously, just call them. Next is destination. So again, what are we saying to these people? You could do what I do, which is just, hey, how are things going? And there's not necessarily a direct destination. The destination is an email. But if you go to your destination, I love one-on-one videos that actually show product updates, and then you create cloned landing pages in HubSpot, and you can just see traffic on those individual landing pages. Like, that's tracking. And also, if you've already hooked with these people, just using HubSpot, because they've already come through your systems, you can actually see on-page engagement like a contact line. So you got the destination, and that destination is then directly your traffic. Did they watch the video? Did they view the page? Did they book a meeting? Everyone can go build this, it'll take you 4 hours. And I do it in 4 hours. It's just Once you've got your templates and your processes, highly repeatable, quarterly program that will get you ballpark 15 to 20% of meeting bookings on your cross opportunities. That's the starting point. That said, I'd love to answer questions. I know there's a lot to be unpacked today. And again, there's no way I can cover everything in the 45-minute session. That's why we've got this podcast with 101 episodes that takes this same topic literally in 1,000 different, 101 different ways right now. But I'd love to answer any questions. What's up, Docs? All right.
Alright, first question is the acronym itself, account-based marketing. If I would try to quantify it, spoken about sales more, maybe 60-65% more than marketing. So these are more of a question and a suggestion. I think there's an opportunity to maybe evolve this acronym. I've heard people say ABS, which is strategy. That might make sense because of go-to-market strategy. Or we also see people X.
Yeah.
And then they'll throw anything. First question.
Long and short, we had a definition slide earlier. I know we're a little bit late, but we directly addressed the definition, which is just a B2B revenue strategy that aligns marketing, sales, and sort of share target accounts. And I hear what you're saying on the evolution of the acronym. I've seen it ABX, ABE, ABGTM, ABS, ABCM. If you come to my session with B2BMX, I'll also directly address this because I actually think the conflation of these numerous acronyms has made it more confusing. Because I've now sat in numerous conversations with revenue executives that are arguing their ABM versus their ABX versus their ABE strategies. Like, we all want the same thing, which is just want people to know that we exist. We want them to know that we have a problem. We want them to know that we have a viable solution. We want them to buy that solution, and then we want them to stay forever and buy more from us. That's ABM in a nutshell. Yeah, you can call it ABM, you can call it ABX, you can call it ABE, you can call it ABGTM, you can call it ABS, you can call it ABCM. Personally, I don't care. I just happen to go with ABM because that was the first definition or acronym. But also to give quick context, like we custom order a shirt for a client that says Scrappy ABX because that's what their team wants. And it's all the same stuff.
Yeah. The second question, you mentioned programs, you mentioned activations. Again, a bit of an acronym thing. What is the relationship? Is it more of a mother to child relationship? Or?
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
I get asked the question all the time. What's the difference between a playbook and a program and a campaign? This, from beginning to end, is a program. You could build a vertical specific account-based marketing program that follows this account progression model. The playbooks are the individual tactics that you run and the reasons you reach out and how you track it at every stage. So you have a clear definition of awareness. And did we win at awareness? As far as campaigns, some people are going to hate me for this. I'm not much of a campaign marketer. I'm more of a, we're going to do cool stuff and do it repeatedly. I just focus on repeatable processes, and that's largely because of my personal background. I've worked on bootstrapped and smaller teams, so the idea of massive investment for a one shot that we couldn't replicate was not my approach. So I think frameworks and I think programming, and yes, maybe you could frame it as an event campaign, like I'm doing event activation for a HubSpot campaign and inbound. Sure, but everything that I do is very framework based and repeatable processes.
Last question. I'm done. You mentioned at the beginning somewhere in the middle podcast test conversion, and you will probably give some examples as well. But for the benefits of others, can you maybe expatiate on how that works?
Yeah.
As I know,
So if you think about specifically destinations for podcasting, I would not necessarily track podcast listenership as a destination. That's incredibly difficult to track unless you got specific tooling. You could look at it at the email level through a sequence at the email link clicks, so you could track the link. That just seems really circuitous. When I talk about destinations for podcasting, I mean specific high-value contacts at specific target accounts that book a recording with you. You can set that link up in HubSpot, and then depending on how you set it to HubSpot, you can actually get campaign or in the campaign's object, and you can get tracking on specifically the booking. And then as a result, you've got tracking of I talked to them, I said, hey, we're podcasting this other thing. They booked a meeting for the podcast, which is great. Now I get to tracking that they know that we exist. That's an awareness play. Now, how do we do the rest of this for the initial engagement? So, as a destination for podcast, I think that is the booking for the actual recording.
I agree with that. Thanks.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that your presentation was completely agnostic to what CRM system you're using.
Yeah.
Word and during everything you walk through, how well equipped you feel HubSpot is out of the box to do,
Yeah.
or where do you still feel the system has limitations to a perfect ABM platform?
Yeah, I'll give some quick context on my personal background. I came up in the HubSpot partner ecosystem. For me, my CRM that I'm most familiar with is actually HubSpot. So all of my thought processes are how do I build this in HubSpot? But I have many team members that now do Salesforce. Like you were correct, we are very tech agnostic. But as they think through this, so what are the data points we're going to look at? It's going to be contact properties, it's going to be company properties, it's going to be deal record properties. There are a lot of things that HubSpot is capable of doing, but as every CRM has gaps based on the business model, you just have also custom properties. So actually, as I look at data, I think custom properties are one of the best places to look because they were intentionally designed for your organization at some point for something. So if you look at custom properties, there's probably a really great trigger there. So that's how I think about it. And then next is distribution. 3 years ago, I spoke at Guru Conference, specifically on how to use sales sequences as distribution to engage non-GDPR compliant contacts using HubSpot. You can do it. There are now new tools, or more tools that I'm aware of, that are likely better for outbound distribution. But at the end of the day, HubSpot can't do it. As far as destination, we talked about one-to-one landing pages on HubSpot. Depending on the tiering that you've got, you have a lot of capabilities around content hubs. So destination is all HubSpot, and then the more you build in HubSpot, the more tracking capabilities you have in HubSpot. But I also give context. Everything here I do for us, and I pay $240 a year for HubSpot stuff. So if you just know how to do a lot of these things, these are very intentionally designed to actually not need a ton of information. If you just know how to use active listening, again, pun intended, be a little bit scrappy. Yeah, my goal is always tech agnostic so that anyone can use this. But great question. Thank you. Yeah. Any other questions?
In terms, you talked about podcasting and video. I wanted to ask you, what is your take on LinkedIn video activation?
Yeah.
Not activation, but some of those tactics that you see working on LinkedIn. And I know you have some outbound stuff, but if you can give me a little bit of
so as we think
insight into that.
LinkedIn activation. So let's think about it from what's the data source? Data will be LinkedIn, and specifically we're looking at video activation. So we post a video, and somebody actually engages and comments on it. Okay, that's a touch point that we can track. So again, from a targeting perspective, if you've intentionally connected and curated a LinkedIn audience that is specifically your target accounts and they start to engage, targets for those that you connected with that are not first connections. Trigger is then post engagement. And then your messaging is, hey, thank you so much for engaging with this post. And then you personalize the message based on their profile and your content. Distribution will then be likely LinkedIn messages. And again, to be really tactical on this, if you click the like button, like the likes that are on your post, and then you right click on a profile, opens a profile in a new tab. And you just do that through your list of people, and you've got a bunch of tabs across the top to add to your 80,000 tabs that are already open. You just go tab by tab, and that's your playbook. You can also use tools like Ample Market, where it integrates into LinkedIn, and through Ample Market you can export all of the contacts and actually further filter through data enrichment, and then outbound sequence through Ample Market. But again, you can do this with no tools. It's not crazy concept. Distribution is going to be LinkedIn messaging. Destination is ideally based on the content you've created. You've got better next step content. So, hey, you watch this 3-minute video. I've actually got a 40-minute podcast episode that dives way deeper into the topic. Or I've got this video on my website that's even deeper on the topic. Didn't know that'd be relevant for you. Awesome. And then direction, depending on how you set this up, ideally if it's some kind of a landing page, again, you're tracking their on-page engagement, you're tracking the video watch, you're tracking any number of things. It depends on the tech stack that you got, the direction you put it will get a little bit murky. But again, from data distribution and destination, those three are very simple just through LinkedIn activation. it's the direction that's going to be very different than your tech stack. Great question. Anyone else? Any other questions? Oh, I have 1 minute. Does anyone have a 1 minute question?
I do have a follow-up.
Okay.
On the specifically on email stuff, what are the usual data points or the trigger? You can put the other side back. What are the triggers that usually are good, especially for older audiences? What are low-hanging
Yeah, I'll be super blunt. None of this should be full audience. Like everything we talked through today is based on first-party engagement data as a starting point. So if you think about it in the context of the account progression model, we're focused on meaningful engagement and re-engagement. Because these are how you get quicker wins with sales, because these people are already brand aware, they're likely already on your website, they're already exploring around, and you want to build that handoff process early, so that then you can...
Is that what you're saying, talk about close lost?
Yes.
Already...
Yeah, so if you start with those audiences, you then build those repeatable processes, and then what you inevitably have is when you do go to colder audiences, you're not dependent on those colder audiences for pipeline, and you've now got more opportunities at the awareness stage that are then feeding into your inevitable processes down the account progression model. Cool. I am now 13 seconds over, so thanks so much for being here. One of you will win a free 2-month engagement with me. I don't know how we're doing that, but I'm sure Matt Melly will tell me. Scan this QR code, listen to literally way more content. We should have 150 episodes out before the end of the year. That's all this stuff. And I'm not 3 seconds over. Okay, thanks, bye.
Let's give Mason a hand, ladies and gentlemen. That was a good closing.